Hello there, YouTube. Thanks for popping by the old Pick Six Podcast YouTube channel and checking us out. We are live for our second show of the day here on Friday, July 1st. That's why you want to have alerts on so you know when we go live. Hit subscribe too and hit the like button. And while you're subscribing, check out John Breach's Pick Six Podcast newsletter, cbssports.com/newsletters. Sign up for it today. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. Happy holidays! If you're listening to the show in audio form, as it is, I believe, Monday, July 4th?
That sounds right, Brinson. I think you finally got it. It took 3 years, but I think you correctly got a calendar date. Unbelievable.
A future calendar date.
Unbelievable.
Yes, unbelievable. Incredibly impressive by me. So happy America's birthday if you celebrate.
246 years old today, Brinson.
And America's even older than I am, John.
Older than Wilson.
Yes.
You think Wilson's watching right now from his hotel room in Italy?
How classic Wilson to leave the country
for America's birthday? Try to make
selfish.
A statement here. We all know what statement he's making. Ryan and his politics. My goodness.
Cheers to you, America. My red Solo cup from our previous podcast no longer filled with water.
And also, and in Wilson's defense, this was not a political move. This was a trip he'd been planning for 2 years, got canceled due to COVID. They completely had to replan it. And he's like, guys, I'm ditching you for 2 weeks. And so we're happy he made it.
We are absolutely happy for him. This is a Mailbag podcast, Mailbag Monday.
Mailbag!
Oh, sorry, I blew that. This is this change in scenario. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm currently located in Costa Rica, deep in the heart of the Costa Rican jungle. You may even hear a weed eater going, a Costa Rican weed eater or Costa Rican lawnmower. Who's to say? The cool breeze is blowing in my hair, and we're going to talk some mailbag. Let's start. Dirty Hippie Chris asks, these are from Twitter, I believe, out of the 6 starting, and if you're in the chat, leave us a question too. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can leave us a question. We'll answer it as well. We'll try and get that in there. And we do these mailbags all off season every Friday live on YouTube on Friday. So if you're bored on Friday at work and want to come hang out, make sure and do that. Subscribe, hit the like button, give us throw us a bone on that one. Dirty Hippie Chris asks, out of the 6 quote unquote starting second-year quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and Davis Mills, which do you think will be replaced by their team first? That's a good one.
That is a really good question, and I am glad I read the questions beforehand because I would have had to sit here for 10 minutes and think about this if I had not.
So in my mind, this is a case where you sort of work backwards, maybe, to eliminate, like for instance, Mac Jones, I'm taking off the list.
Right.
Because I believe that the stability of the Patriots, his play as a rookie, my belief that he can continue to improve, his high floor, and the fact that Bill Belichick has massive stability as the head coach there, barring a really bad season, Mac Jones is highly unlikely to be removed as the Patriots starting quarterback or replaced as the Patriots starting quarterback. I mean, it would be really surprising if Mac Jones didn't see a second contract in New England, I think.
I am taking Trevor Lawrence off the list. There's just
agreed completely.
He is a number 1 overall pick. He is playing out his entire first contract no matter what. Even if he tanks, he is going to be in Jacksonville for at least 5 years. So at that point, that leaves us with 4 guys, Zach Wilson, or 3 guys, Trey Lance and Davis Mills. So out of those 3,
and I was going to say too, the other thing with the Jaguars is it's easy to forget, but basically since Shad Khan took over, there's been a lot of leeway given to the head coaches in Jacksonville, with the exception of Urban Meyer, who is the most disastrous head coach hire in the history of professional football. So Doug Peterson, if he does anything good with Trevor Lawrence, is going to get a pretty long run. And I think you're going to see Trevor Lawrence probably, I expect Trevor Lawrence to play well enough in his second and third years that he is given a pretty big extension after his third year, just because of his pedigree. I think so. In your mind, it comes down to Wilson, Fields, and Mills.
Yes. So who do you take off of that list? Do you want me to go first? Or you want to go first?
You go. Well, you go first.
All right. So again, the question was which second-year starting QB would most likely be replaced by his team first? I am going to go with Zach Wilson.
Okay.
I just think that I just feel like he has the lowest ceiling, and they're because of
no
that,
way. He might have the lowest floor. He doesn't have the lowest ceiling.
or lowest floor. I don't know.
His floor is pretty low. Like it's like
here's
Kyle
what I think of Zach
level.
Wilson. I think that Robert Saleh is a defensive coach, and if Robert Saleh sits through the season and the defense plays lights out, and they're not winning games from Zach Wilson, I think he would be the most likely to move on based on the coach. And I think that Justin Fields isn't in a great situation. I almost picked him. And obviously Davis Mills, but the Texans are so bad that if they only win 4 games next year, it's like you're not going to pin that on Davis Mills. And Davis Mills, as far as expectations go, probably had the best season out of, okay, Mac Jones was number 1, but he was a first-round pick who was expected. You have higher expectations of the first-round pick. Those expectations were not there for Davis Mills, and he played pretty well as a rookie. So I'm going to go Zach Wilson.
So, all right. Yeah, I don't mind the Wilson answer. I think the problem is the Wilson is, it depends on like what you think. Can you hear that dog barking, by the way? If not, great. Good for my AirPods. Okay, yeah. Well,
the dog is picking the Browns quarterback because it's a dog and it's barking.
Well, he is. He hears me. Uh-oh. Problem. He's like barking at me.
Brenton is going to get attacked live on the podcast. Everyone share this on Facebook and Twitter. Oh my goodness. This is like Animals Gone Wild, that old Fox show.
Both Simmons Stem and Will McLean in the comments say that they think it has to be Mills, and I tend to agree. And not because Mills is like the worst player or might have the worst performance as a second-year starter, but because I think Davis Mills, even if he plays well, the Texans can win 3, 4, 5 games and be a terrible team, get a high pick and decide to utilize a high first-round pick on another quarterback in this coming draft. Like, so Mills would have to play the Texans out of a high draft pick to avoid being at risk of being replaced, even though he played like average to above average. Does that make sense? Like, whereas Wilson is just going to have to stink, and like Joe Douglas probably has to get fired before he replaces him after his second year, right? Like you really just cannot.
No, I mean, Mills is definitely, I feel like Mills is the easy answer. I was trying to be provocative.
Gotcha. I think
with Mills also, he's with a head coach who didn't draft him. So there's 1,000 arguments for why they would move on from him.
In fact, the real way to do this, Breach, might be which second year first round pick is more likely. Because there are 5 guys taken, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, because just the inherent nature of a second round quarterback is that they are more replaceable than a first round quarterback, unless they're playing at like a super elite level, right? Or a later round quarterback like Russell Wilson, right? I mean, if Russell Wilson had stunk his rookie season and wasn't good, the Seahawks would have moved on and wouldn't have thought much about it. I don't think. To me, the sneaky answer here would be Justin Fields.
Oh, real quick, Davis Mills threw as many touchdown passes last season as a rookie as Lamar Jackson did, as Tua did, and as Jalen Hurts did. Fun fact.
There's a fun fact. Justin Fields is interesting, not because I don't like Fields. Again, this question is not about who do you think is a good quarterback or who do you think has a chance to succeed in a best quarterback in a vacuum, right? This is about what the organizational stuff around them matters. All kinds of stuff comes into play. And like we talked about this repeatedly on the show. If you look, and I don't necessarily feel this way, but I've heard people I respect suggest this. If you look at what the Bears did this offseason, it is not indicative of a team that is desperately trying to surround Justin Fields, like trying to build up Justin Fields. Like, he doesn't have great receivers. He doesn't have an offensive line. They didn't have a first-round pick because they drafted him, but they used their second-round pick on defense, and both their second-round picks on defense, I believe. Or maybe they got him a wide receiver in the second round. Anyway, point being, they did not like go out and say, we've got to do everything we can to help Justin Fields. You're talking about a new coaching staff and a new regime that did not draft him and wasn't involved in the selection of him. So I think that there's a possible chance if the Bears finish with a really bad pick that they could consider trading Fields. And maybe Fields, I'm not saying Fields can't be great. It's just when you have a new regime and they don't take actions that indicate we want to build around him, you at least have to wonder what is their belief and intent, like what is their belief in Justin Fields and what is their intent for Justin Fields? Because if he's terrible for a full year in 2022, they can then say, look, we didn't draft this guy. We have a top 5 pick. We want to get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young or Devin Leary.
Yeah. I mean, that's why Justin Fields is on our list of 3 guys who seem like the correct answer to this. Yep. He's not. If I'm Justin Fields, I hate the situation I'm in. I just lost my offensive-minded coach for a defensive-minded coach. The front office that drafted me is no longer here. I mean, you're in a pressure situation. They didn't surround you with any great talent. They let your best wide receiver walk. I mean, there is not a lot to like. And now you're playing for your life because if you're not good, they have no incentive not to replace you.
Is there a worse receiver group than Equanimeous St. Brown, Darnell Mooney, and Byron Pringle?
I mean, that is not ideal.
Like the first 8 to 10 Bengals receivers would be their number 1, I think. By the way, I can't believe I'm giving credit to the Bengals.
Thanks.
By the way, Sim has a question. I have a low importance question from an overseas perspective. What is Breach's stylized mailbag reference?
Mailbag.
It's the PTI reference. Breach, when PTI started, I don't watch PTI daily anymore, but they used to do it. They had this guy, the mailbag voice. It's basically exactly what Breach is doing. That is what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be like time for a
mailbag.
Yeah, and Breach almost does it perfectly. So we're essentially ripping off PTI, but it's not a rip off because we're
the funny thing is PTI has been on the air since 2001, I think. So literally for more than 20 years. So
it's insane.
There was no internet. I mean, there was internet, but it wasn't as that's when you got your sports news was PTI.
PTI was groundbreaking in 2001. Like people don't understand. It was like the first, like even around the horn, it was like, I mean, wow, they got 4 people on here yelling about sports. The PTI was like incredible. It peaked probably in like 05, 06, but it was awesome when it first came out with Wilbon and Kornheiser because we'd never seen anything like it. And it just, you back then you always just watched SportsCenter on repeat.
Right.
And it was like 5 o'clock SportsCenter, I think was still like repeating what had happened the night before. It was like 6 p.m. was the new SportsCenter. And so 5 p.m. was like, you're getting the news in a different way of analyzing it. And they did a big mailbag thing every once a week. And they would have like guests on, like have Peter King and Jay Billis. Like they had cachet. At any rate, that's where it comes from. PTI, pardon the interruption. And it's not that we're ripping it off. It's an homage to like a show that we grew up watching in college, like as it first started with the legends, Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon.
Correct.
Next question from Padre. I assume he's San Diego there. Which team should start tanking now for Arch Manning in the 2026 draft, and why isn't it the Lions? Some would argue they have been tanking for him since 1956. Ouch.
The Lions.
A dunk button again. It would have been nice to have a dunk button. I don't have my mixer right now. So.
You know what's funny is I think Dan Campbell's a good enough coach that the Lions will not be the worst team. I think he will still be with the Lions in 2026 and 4 years. I do not think they will be the worst team in the NFL. I think they will have 1 or 2 playoff appearances under their belt in that time span. So my answer is the Carolina Panthers. Sorry, Brinson.
I think I agree completely. The Panthers should be like, here's the problem. And I've talked about this ad nauseum about the Panthers. They hired Matt Rule and said, we want to give you I think they gave him a 6-year contract, maybe a 7-year. I can't remember. Long ass contract. This kind of time you only get when you're like a coveted, coach, like a college coach who's, willing to take a job that, it was a rebuild contract. Matt Rule sold David Tepper on a plan to rebuild in a certain amount of time in a certain way, just like he rebuilt, Baylor, just like he rebuilt Temple. but this is how he does it. He comes in 5-year plans, he rebuilds it. Well, David Tepper is an impatient billionaire lunatic who was previously the richest owner by a large margin in the NFL, by more than anyone else, like $16 billion. And so he essentially wasn't like, they got started on the timeline, and then essentially was like, I can't wait this long. Everyone else is trading for quarterbacks. I want a quarterback now too. Go get Stafford. Go get Watson. Go get Wentz. And they all said no to Tepper and the Panthers because it's a totally, what's the word? Dysfunctional situation right now. They're down in Charlotte. And as a result, they trade a 2nd-round pick for Sam Darnold. Then in the draft, the quarterbacks, Ritter, Malik Willis, they all start coming off the board. So Tepper's like, we got to trade for, go get me Matt Corral. So they give up a bunch of picks. They give up 3rd-round pick to move to get Matt Corral. And again, I'm not trying to make Panthers fans mad. I'm just saying you basically have like 4 or 5 picks in the draft, 4 or 5 2nd and 3rd-round picks invested in Sam Darnold and Matt Corral. You're starting quarterbacks this year. So you've wasted all this draft capital trying to get ahead of the curve when in reality, what all you did was acquire the guys who were most likely to help you tank for a top pick. It's irony.
It is the irony, Brinson. It is the irony. And so I'm glad we agree on the Panthers, clearly. The only other teams I really thought about, the Texans, because they seem like, we just talked about how easy it would be for them to get rid of Davis Mills. They'd probably have one of the worst rosters in the NFL. I'm not sure to be able to turn that whole thing around by 2026. And I don't know who else besides that. Giants? Maybe the Giants? They might need a quarterback by then.
I don't know if the Giants are tanking.
For Arch Manning, you get another Manning. He won 2 Super Bowls with EY.
Yeah, there was a luck box.
Or what if the Colts play out this Matt Ryan thing and they kick Matt out in 2025, go with like they did from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck, where they were good for so long, then they have one bad year and then get the franchise quarterback again? Yeah,
I mean, the team, the Falcons could be the team too. Like, if you're, it's got to be a team that has. See, the problem is like it can't really be the Panthers because like if they tank one more year, Matt Rule's probably getting fired.
Right.
And then so it's like then who's then what's the news? Then the guy who's coming in next, do you think he's going to last what 23, 24, 25? You think he's got 3 years of being terrible before David Tepper cans him? Probably not. So the Panthers are, I don't know. The Panthers have a whole host of different problems. But yes, getting a Manning in 2026 would be amazing, assuming that he's good. It would be pretty surprising. Like even Cooper Manning was good until he suffered a back injury as a young player, I believe. Like that family is just elite at quarterbacking. So Arch is probably gonna be great. And it's gonna be some team. It's probably gonna, who it's gonna be.
Don't say the Bengals, Brenton. Don't even
Patriots.
dare. That would be, and Belichick will coach till he's 90. Yeah. Belichick would be like 75 if he still coached while Arch Manning is eligible.
Or like Brady plays 22, 23, 24, and then the
Buccaneers tank for a year.
And then the Buccaneers tank for a year. Would it be a year or 2 years?
And then get Arch?
Yeah, that would be crazy.
What about the Steelers?
Will McClain says Rule isn't making it to week 10 this year. Yeah, I mean, like they haven't. Nobody's opened him up yet that I've seen. But when they release these first coach fired odds, Matt Rule's gonna be like minus 300. They're not gonna be willing to take bets on Matt Rule because Tepper is such a Looney Tune. He's going to can anybody at any time. All right, moving along. Actually, I tell you what. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll do some more
Mailbag
next.
We're about to start our very own streaming service.
South Park: The Streaming Wars is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Yeah! Surprise!
We're in the streaming business too.
Where'd you get that?
Making stuff for streaming services?
At the end of the day, there's only going to be like 3 streaming services. I think you've had too many popsicles. Yeah, I think maybe I had one too many popsicles.
South Park: The Streaming Wars, now streaming.
Why can't people just have a one streaming service? Have everything.
Exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus, baby, you're home for South Park: The Streaming Wars. Go sign up, ParamountPlus.com. I'm pretty sure you get a free, I don't know how long it is. Try promo code Brinson. It probably won't get you anything, but you probably get like a free, some kind of free trial, maybe a free month or something like that. Well worth it. I say that.
And Brinson gets $3.
Yeah, no. I don't think I get anything from it. I'm a Paramount employee, So I mean, like I have to, I'm not going to bash Paramount Plus, but even if I wasn't, but I mean, like it's just a great service. So I highly recommend getting it. I mean, like I really do. I'm a big fan of Paramount Plus. Use it all the time. All right. Nick Leonardi asked, which current quarterback in the league is going to be the next Ryan Fitzpatrick / Josh McCown, a journeyman who can win you games but won't help or hurt your team? Do you want to?
We all know what my answer is. You don't even have to joke about it because it's my answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the obvious answer. Dalton's going to do this for another 20 years, right?
Andy Dalton is he's literally already on his 4th team in 4 seasons. When we talk about can't help or hurt your team, you know what his record is over the Cowboys? 4-5, Bears 3-3. He is almost exactly 500. That is the definition of I am not helping your team. I am not hurting your team. I will walk you to a 500 season, which then you don't even want him, because if you have a journeyman quarterback, you kind of want him to struggle so that you can get a good pick at the top of the draft. You put Dalton in there, you're going 8 and 9, you're picking at 12th overall, you're not getting anyone good. So it almost kind of does hurt your team in the end. But yes, I think Andy Dalton is the new most likely candidate to be a journeyman quarterback.
So I need to see, trying to figure out who are because one of the things that's important about this is that you need to have, like, Josh McCown and Ryan Fitzpatrick played for a long time. Like, I don't want to, what do you think Andy Dalton's desire is in terms of?
He keeps signing with new teams, and I would say that means his desire is high, because you have to learn a new offense. You have to, you don't want to sign with a new team if you're a quarterback. There is a lot to digest and a lot to learn. And we're looking at Fitzpatrick, who played 17 years, and Dalton's already on his 12th. So he's getting up there. 12th year.
How old is Andy Dalton again?
He is 34.
You know what's crazy is that
I can see him playing 3 or 4 more years.
Dude, Dominic in the chat says Joe Burrow is the answer. Oh, what a big jam! Dipsy doo, Dunkaroo. Barrett Robertson Sports says Carson Wentz.
That's a better answer.
I don't think that's a bad answer at all. The question is how. I'm trying not to type while I'm talking, because apparently it's loud. But how long would Carson Wentz be willing to, like, if he flops with Washington, he is going to have to be a backup for at least 5 years,
right?
3 years, and he'll get chances, and he'll probably play well at some points. But like, he's just not going to be a star, like a high level. He's not going to get chances to start every year like he has.
Agreed. So
I was trying to look up how many years he's played. Sorry, I'm trying to do this without.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I'm trying to not make the. I think my AirPods pick up the typing a lot. So he's already played 6 years. He's only 29. I don't know. He would need 8 more. So 8 years, I guess, him to 14. Plays till he's 37. I can see him doing that. And the Ryan Fitzpatrick lays his body on the line and constantly in Ryan Fitzpatrick doing the helicopter spin. The other guy that I think could qualify would be Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Because
real quick, the one thing about Fitzpatrick and McCown, though, that maybe we're not taking into account is that they basically started their career as backup quarterbacks and then kind of got thrown into the fray because of injuries or whatever. And then, would win a few games and the teams would love them and then give them contracts. And then they were never great long-term starters.
Yeah,
so
and you kind of gotta find somebody who's Davis Mills could qualify. I know that see somebody in the chat said Minshew. I saw
Nick Foles.
Yeah, but Foles won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he's not a starter.
He was drafted to be I don't know. He's had a ton of starting. It's a hard. I think Dalton is a really good answer, but he also was a starter for a long time too. One guy that could be interesting for this. Let's see, make sure I'm not insane. Well, but again, do you think that the requirements have to involve not being drafted to, Tua Tagovailoa would be an interesting answer,
right?
But
Mariota.
Yeah, Mariota was the guy I thought about too, but he's 28 and he was drafted with the 2nd overall. If you're a top 10 pick, it doesn't really make you a lifetime journeyman. It makes you a bust to be kind of in that spot. And Andy Dalton started for so long too that, I mean, he qualifies as well. Tannehill is a high first round pick. So it's a tough. Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could put him on the list. Yeah, I was going to say one I thought of was Mitch Trubisky, but now I think when you pointed out like that if you're a first round pick and you turn into Ryan Fitzpatrick or Josh McCown, you are absolutely a bust. Because we're talking about Fitzpatrick obviously was
6th round pick or
7th
round pick. Yeah.
So
McCown, yeah. Jimmy G getting thrown about in the chat. That's a good one. Jimmy G. See, that's the thing is you got to be like but Jimmy G's been to a Super Bowl. I guess maybe. I don't know. It's a hard question to answer because.
But Dalton was a 2nd round pick, so I feel like he qualifies for the list. And McCown was a 3rd round pick.
Okay.
Maybe if Taylor Heineke sticks around.
Taylor Heineke could work. He's gonna get like 10 more years with Washington alone. All right, next question. From J John on Twitter @_J John. When do you think the tight end market will catch up with the overinflated wide receiver one? Teams like Baltimore seem smart paying Andrews 50% less than wide receiver one money when he puts up the same numbers, but also blocks. Also, if Live Golf makes an offer to Brinson, and how many minutes does he accept it? Well, I'll answer the second one first, J John. And the answer, your question's wrong. That's the problem with the question. When you said minutes, that would imply that I wouldn't accept in like seconds. Because I've accepted, like, I don't know if you're talking about an offer for me to cover Live Golf. I don't know about you're talking like an offer for me to play Live Golf, but I am accepting in seconds. Like, what is the offer I get from Live Golf to play Live Golf? I mean, $1 million?
We'll say 3 million. No, we'll say 5 million, but for 20 years. So you're only making like 400 grand a year, but you're guaranteed to have 5 million for the next 20 years.
I was almost like snotted myself laughing. You're like, you're only making 400 grand a year, but you're a professional golfer. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably.
Plus, you get your winnings. You know, if you're not going to win anything from this tour.
Well, no, but there's no cut. I get paid every tournament, no matter what.
That's true.
Even though I get 100 grand for like finishing deadline, like 10 grand for finishing. Yeah, hell yeah, I'm taking it in seconds.
Oh my god, I want to be on this tour.
Yeah, I don't begrudge anybody for taking the money. And look, you can say all you want about the human rights stuff with Saudi, and that is true. But like our president went and met with him recently, and there are lots of anyway. You know, we don't need to get into this. The tight end market breach.
The tight end market. You know, I think the issue is that we're not going to see a huge. I don't know the tight end market is ever going to catch up with the wide receiver market because there aren't enough top tier tight ends to make it catch up. Because, like, yes, you have your George Kittles, your Travis Kelce's, your Darren Waller's, your Mark Andrews guys like that are going to get closer to the top tier money. But then the guys after that next year down, they can't make the argument that they deserve 15 or 17 or 19 million a year. And so you're being anchored down by the fact that there's only a handful of tight ends that can play it the way this guy's describing, where you're lining up in the slot, you're lining as a receiver, you're lining up as a tight end, you're doing the blocking.
All right, so just to push back on this, here's the problem. So here's where, and I don't disagree with you that it's a really difficult sell to say, hey, like give Mike Gesicki more than George Kittle because that's what the market dictates, right?
No, he's asking, is the tight end going to catch up to a wide receiver? Are you going to give David Njoku $24 million per year?
What? No. But David Njoku is the answer as to what the problem that happened here. David Njoku is now making $13.7 million per year because the Browns gave it to him. Now, I think it's pretty unlikely that he lives up to top 4 tight end money. I think he's top 5 tight end money, excuse me. But the issue now becomes if you are Mike Gesicki or Dalton Schultz, and obviously Kyle Pitts when he's eligible in 2 more years, or Darren Waller when he does his next deal because he's dirt cheap, are you taking less than what David Njoku makes per year? Because the answer is emphatically hell effing no. I need at least what David Njoku makes, and David Njoku only makes a few $100,000 less per year than Mark Andrews. So you have the situation where Gesicki and Schultz are going to hit the open market or get paid by their own teams, and they're going to jump David Njoku.
Or look at like the Cowboys. That's a good example. They're saying, no, Dalton Schultz, we're not paying you $15 million per year. That's insane. We're just not going to do it. And that's what most teams feel about tight ends, unless you have George Kittle or Travis Kelce
or
apparently
David Njoku.
I mean, Njoku got $13.7 million. He's not the highest paid tight end.
That's
no,
insane.
It isn't. You know, if anybody can reset the market, it's going to be Darren Waller right now in this contract negotiation that he's having with the Raiders. So, and Waller, because the highest paid tight end right now is at $15 million a year, it's going to be tough for Waller to say, I deserve $18 million. And the Raiders were like, oh, you just want to blow past? We're going to give you $3 million more than the next highest paid tight end. And because it moves up in increments, you know, Waller's probably be at like 15.5 or 16 million. And then,
right. But look, again, like, because if Gesicki and Schultz, maybe their own teams don't give them the money, but if they play out the franchise tag and hit the open market, they will get paid like something in that top tier range. And this is my whole point, is that once that happens, then all of a sudden Kittle, Kelsey's probably too old at 33 to make it work, but Kittle, Dallas Goedert, and Mark Andrews, all in the 27-year-old range. You
think Schultz or Mike Gesicki is going to get $15.2 million? You think they're going to make more than Kittle?
It depends. It depends on the market and what, you know, what teams have cap. I mean, I think that they will get in the Kittle. I think they'll get in that range because you can make the case that Mark Andrews is the best tight end in football, and he's making less than we'll see. I mean, probably not.
Well, I think the reason these guys are on the franchise tag and not getting long-term contract is because that's what they want. And their teams are like, yeah, you're not George Kittle. You're not Travis Kelce. We're not giving you that money.
Yeah, but when they hit the open market, it just makes a world of difference. Like Kirk Cousins isn't the best quarterback in football. All I'm saying is that it's just like the DeAndre Hopkins contract. It messed up the structure of the salaries for that position. The David Njoku contract did. And it's now what David Njoku contract did was eliminate the space right underneath Mark Andrews where Dalton Schultz and Mike Gesicki could have just slotted in easily. Now they're going to say, no, we will not take David Njoku doesn't have a 700-yard season. He's not like some elite block. They're just not taking less than him. So,
right.
Yeah.
But the other part is when you look at the salaries, so Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith both make an average of $12.5 million per year with the Patriots. And those are the 6th and 7th highest paid guys. And then there's just a gap. There's no one who makes an average between 11 and 12 million per year. The next highest are Schultz and Gesicki, who both are making 10.9 on the tag. So there's that gap where I'm sure that the Cowboys or the Dolphins are trying to put them like, hey guys, we'll pay you $12 million a year. That's a $1.1 million raise on what you have right now. We're not giving you 15. So it just seems like the market's so far behind.
It is far behind. But what I'm saying is that the Njoku contract is going to have that same effect on it. And let's not forget, like, I'm not saying Cole Kmet is like an elite player, but he is probably going to get a ton of catches from Justin Fields this year because of just their wide receiver position, which we talked about earlier. Pat Freiermuth is going to be eligible for a contract extension in 2 years. Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson. You have these guys who've got a ton of production. Tyler Higbee, I guess, signed recently. Darren Waller is going to get one. Kyle Pitts in 2 years is going to get more than the top amount. So my point being is that, like the DeAndre Hopkins contract, which it was it's an outlier. It shouldn't be there. And it artificially propped up the floor for what top people were going to get paid.
But that made Hopkins the highest paid wide receiver. That's why it went up. And Njoku's not, it messes up the middle tier of tight ends because all these other tight ends are going to be like, well, I should make more than Njoku, but they're not going to say I should make more than Kittle. And you have to get above Kittle to raise the market, or the market's not going up. You're just having more middle tier guys.
Okay. Well, then we'll just agree to disagree and see what happens in the offseason from these teams. I think
it really is. Darren Waller's the one who can move it up, and Pitts can too, but he's not going to be up for an extension until after the 2023.
I think Gesicki, you look at like Mike McDaniel's offense and what it did for Kittle. If Gesicki explodes because no one's looking at him because of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, like, it's not crazy to suggest he could get more than that.
Right, but if either of those guys get a deal before July 15th, before that deadline, I do not think they will get more than George Kittle.
If they sign a deal before the franchise tag deadline to sign a deal, I would not expect them to get more than what. Like, I think that their deal that goes above Kittle and Kelce will happen because they played out the season on the franchise tag, had monster years, and either their teams just ponied up or they get out into free agency because their teams know they can't afford them and they get those numbers. All right. Next question from Halifax Hugh. Wouldn't it be a better strategy for the Browns at Halifax Hugh on Twitter for the Browns to simply start simply hold on to Baker Mayfield until after the regular season starts. It would give much greater leverage in the inevitable string of starting quarterbacks going down for the rest of the season. Yes, probably. I think is the short answer. The more complex answer is that if the Browns think that they can make we don't know what Deshaun Watson's suspension is going to be. And I really hope it doesn't come out. We're recording this podcast at 2:00 on Friday afternoon. I'm already prepared for the inevitable I'll see you in 2 hours breach. And I said this on I see this on Twitter. I can't remember if I tweeted this, but this is my theory on the Deshaun Watson thing. And if you're listening to this on Monday, we'll see. You'll have a good idea, maybe, perhaps. The NFL's investigation is concluded. It's possible that they don't do anything until July 11th, after the briefs and the cases are due. It is also possible, I think, Breach, that if the NFL does not plan on suspending him for very long, that they announce it around 4:30 on July 1st, Friday afternoon, the quintessential Friday news dump, where it's a low number of game suspension, and the NFL is trying to bury it in the holiday weekend, and it will successfully work, even though it's like this ham-handed approach. If they're going to hammer him, I think it's more likely it comes out next week or maybe after that July 11th deadline. So I sort of think Friday at 4:30, which is basically when the NFL transaction wire processes and when the NFL is shutting down for the entire weekend, for the holiday weekend, that will be, if we don't get any news by 4:30 on Friday, then it's probably going to be a bit before we hear about Watson. But to Baker, yes, it probably makes sense to hold on to him because you're paying his contract anyway. It's a 1-year guaranteed deal with a 5th-year option. The other thing is, like, if Carolina's your only trade partner, should you trade him to the Panthers before you play the Panthers in week 1? Probably not.
So, yeah, I don't. I mean, holding him into the season is a huge risk because if nobody gets injured and nobody needs a quarterback, you're paying Baker Mayfield $18 million to do nothing. And obviously, the
Browns have paid people a lot more money. They
paid.
Oh, yeah. Better be careful.
A lot of people.
Would you name some names, Reach? Go ahead.
I was going to say Johnny Manziel. I was going to name anyone that you thought. Everyone. They have made some.
A lot of people. Who's to say?
Richardson. A lot of first-round picks.
Brandon Weeden.
Brandon Weeden. That's a good one.
I can't really remember any of the first-round picks that we had mentioned. Anyway, moving.
So you have this $18 million. Are you just going to throw that away? And I think that also, if you're the Browns, you have higher leverage going into training camp because Baker Mayfield, if he's going to compete for a starting job with another team, he's going to want to have training camp to kind of get adjusted to this new playbook and everything else. And so I don't know that gives him more leverage. And again, it also depends on the Deshaun Watson suspension because if he's not suspended, then you're the Browns. You want to get rid of Mayfield as soon as possible. Like, just dump him. Find somebody willing to give up a 6th-round pick and pay $15 million of his salary. Get him out of Cleveland. But then if Watson suspend the whole season, maybe you change your mind. And as for your theory that it's coming Friday, Brinson, I would have agreed with you last week because the NFL, as you noted, loves the pre-4th of July news dump. The $10 million fine against the Commanders and Dan Snyder, that was a 4th of July news dump. Julian Edelman suspension in 2018, 4th of July news dump. Antonio Gates suspension a couple years ago. 4th of July news dump. Aaron Jones suspension. Darren Waller suspension. Yes, all these guys got suspended.
4th of July
news dumps. But I do think that because of the fact that Sue Robinson asked for the post-hearing briefings on July 11th, that we won't see a decision before that. So I think you can get comfortable, start drinking, and not worry about the fact that you're going to have to do an emergency podcast in 2 hours.
I mean, I think pretty clearly I got comfortable and started drinking, regardless of what happens to Deshaun Watson. So look, yes, it probably is a better strategy to hold on to Baker from a football perspective. Sorry, you got very bright out here all of a sudden. That's why I put on my sunglasses. Yes, it makes more sense to do it from a football perspective. But it's just the amount that we'll have to talk about Baker Mayfield not showing up. You already signed Jacoby Brissett. How do you handle all of that? There's a ton going on. Curtis King in the chat asks, "Oh, can you see my computer in the sunglasses?" I'll take it off. I can't see it. It is a MacBook Pro, yeah. I don't just see my other open tabs. I can't see anything out here now. Anyway, Curtis King in the chat asks, "What's the best win total bet of the season?" I slam Bears under 6.5, Seahawks under 6 and Jags under 6.5. I'm worried about the Jags, kind of. I think the Jaguars is the biggest one I'm worried about there too. You know, Pete Carroll finds a way to win a bunch of games, but certainly with that, just the way the roster set up and how they want to win, and Drew Lock plus Geno Smith and all the endorsements for Geno Smith, you can definitely make the case that the Seahawks will go under. I love the Bears under. I've been hammering that one too. I think the Panthers under is probably a good bet as well. But I want to see if Baker Mayfield is eventually traded to Carolina before. Like if Baker's traded to Carolina, I think I'm a little worried about that under of 6 minus 120 under. Those are my thoughts on those two.
Mine is the Colts 9.5. I think they get to 10 wins easy. I am pounding the Colts at 9.5. I like the Ravens over, Colts over, Ravens over. I don't really like betting unders, even though that's where the money's at because everything seems juiced to the over. But yeah, I like the Colts and the Ravens overs.
I'm trying to see if I actually have any bad. I can barely see out here now. All right. I can't see my computer, but I don't want you guys to see my computer. But I don't think I have any tabs I really care about you seeing. Curtis Gale said, "I bet Colts to win division, 2,500 to win." Yeah, geez, you don't have to put the actual units. Say units, man. Don't put your actual cash in.
No, put it all out there. Put the money in there. Curtis King is on the Colts bandwagon. That is hefty stuff.
I like the Colts at even money to win the division. I don't mind that at all. All right, you know what? Okay, let's do this one real quick. You know what? Actually, we'll save this one. This is a good one. We'll do a would you rather to get out of here on this because it's suddenly like scorching out here and I can't see. So from Rollerblader Bob, which MMA fight would you rather see? Ryan Wilson versus DK Metcalf or Pete Prisco versus Myles Garrett?
Ooh, I mean, that's easy.
Is it?
Oh, it's Prisco versus Garrett all the way. Wilson is a pacifist. He is not going to walk out of the ring and forfeit. There wouldn't be a fight.
Right. There's a couple things at play. You have to decide who do you most want to see get obliterated by a professional athlete in an MMA fight, because both of these fights are unfair. The thing about Wilson with DK is Wilson wouldn't run his mouth if he was signed up for an MMA fight versus DK. He'd be petrified. It'd be so great to have him on the podcast every day for like the hundreds of days leading up to this fight. And we talk about it and he's talking about how scared he is. And then he gets destroyed with one quick move from DK Metcalf. And like, so for me, the lead up to the Wilson DK fight would be the best. But the Prisco Garrett fight, like Pete wouldn't give up. He wouldn't quit. He'd keep fighting Myles Garrett and keep trying to win. And he would just inevitably get destroyed over and over and over again. And I would much rather see Pete get his ass kicked by a pro athlete, especially when like Myles Garrett's like, "I love poetry, son," as he slams Pete into the like steel cage over and over again. Whereas Wilson would just be a kind of like 15-second just ending, and it wouldn't be the fight itself wouldn't be great. So the fight I'd rather see Briscoe versus Myles Garrett, but having to do like 3 to 5 podcasts per week with Wilson leading up to it would be quite delightful.
And you know what? We actually should end on this question.
Sure, yeah, you're the one comfortable inside in a sweatshirt.
I'll read this one from @Stubb67. If Breach and Brinson could be bothered, what would be the perfect birthday present for Ryan Wilson? As we know, Brinson's birthday was last Sunday. Yeah. Brinson, but it was on a Sunday, and we forgot to all wish you happy birthday.
Okay.
Sorry, buddy. But Wilson's birthday was Monday. So, Brinson, would you re-gift a present that someone gave you? What would be your perfect birthday present for Wilson?
I would get Ryan Wilson a tiny little crock pot. Like, it's not really a functional gift. Like, he could only make like one bowl of soup or like some fondue. No, I would get Wilson either like a pasta maker, like a pasta, like a hand pasta grinder, or a fondue kit. Because both are like kind of fun, or a donut maker. I've got all 3 of those. I would love to re-gift to him. And like, I think that you could like see Wilson's the type of guy where if you give him that gift, he will feel compelled to use it. Like you and I, Breach, will probably throw a gift we don't plan on using underneath a couch or something. Wilson is he's just gonna have to use it and show you once that he used it. And it's gonna be a giant pain in his ass to use one of those things. So donut maker, homemade ice cream maker, pasta maker, or a little tiny little fondue kit, or a tiny little crock pot. Something that will force him in the kitchen and make him do something with his family that he doesn't want to do, and come away with like a picture of. He's like, "Oh, thanks, buddy. Really appreciate this. Like, here's what I got."
And then after he opens Brinson's gift and gives him a stink eye for making him go in the kitchen, he will open my gift, and it will be a package of adult diapers. As we know, Brinson, every podcast during the football season, Sunday night, what happens? Wilson has to take a timeout and go to the bathroom. Well, guess what? No more timeouts. Puts the diapers on. Everything's solved. He can make it all the way through.
Can you imagine how amazing it would be to see him podcasting on Sunday nights? Just like, and you watch every week, like a half hour in, you get to see him like you notice when he's like relieving himself. It's like very obvious what's going on. All right, that'll do it for us. I'm roasting up.
And we just lost Brinson. He is so hot, his computer exploded. But that is it. If you're listening on Friday, I hope you have a great 4th of July weekend. If you're listening on Monday, I hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. We will see you on Tuesday. Peace out, everyone.